Cool. So we have Tana. She's done something unique in carving out a niche of people that she's looking to help with her company and how she can help people create longevity when it comes to the health and wellness through the approach of exercise, and also making sure that the client and coach relationship is a very high quality one.
I started as a college athlete, went to the University of Central Florida to row. And from there, that's how I got my taste for competitive fitness. Eventually stumbled into the current fitness space that I'm in, which was a CrossFit gym. And that's was 9 years ago now, which is crazy for me to say. 9 years ago, I walked into a CrossFit gym and saw all these people that were driven to lift each other up and was just immediately ready to be a part of it.
Awesome. Very cool. And then from there, how did you transition into the role of being a coach and helping to guide other people to reach their health and wellness goals?
Yeah, it didn't take me very long to be in that fitness space to realize that that's where I wanted to go. That direction of being a coach instead of being on the member side. I went to school originally for athletic training, so it was still relative to what I was doing. Started coaching like 6 months after I started CrossFit, I think, and just realized that it was something that I needed to be a part of. I needed to be a part of this movement, and we've talked about this recently. This movement of CrossFit that brought so many different types of people off of the couch and into a space where they could be doing the same things. They may look a little bit different, but they were in this space together.
That's awesome. Cool. And then once you kind of found this new group of people, this community that you can connect with, what were the initial experiences that you had that led you to start thinking about momentum motives?
I incurred an injury myself, and then when I saw it happen to me and I felt the repercussions of that, not just the repercussions that it was having inside of the gym, but outside of the gym, there were days where I couldn't even like reach back behind me in the car to give my kid a sippy cup, right? Which is like, man, I'm going to have to pull over my car to do this. This is crazy. So that happened to me. And then I noticed it happening all over the place in the gym space, and what I noticed was happening is that this would happen to people, and then they'd go, okay, well, this just didn't work for me. So they left. They stopped doing it. Instead of, there was this big gap. Like, you don't just have to leave, but we can do something else. But also at that time, it was like, what do we do? What tools do we have right now to help them? And that really spun me into finding what was the best way to meet their needs and make sure that they stayed and continued to stay for the long run.
Very cool. So you took it upon yourself to create a platform that could then bring certain members of the community that were experiencing the same kind of negative effects due to injury, but knowing that they had a place to go to and they had a professional, a coach that they can lean on in guiding them through this kind of inner journey of fitness and health and wellness.
Right. Yeah, it was a collaboration for sure, because certain people, you're like, I would really like for you to go see your doctor about this and let me know what they say. And collaborating with, the other coaches and chiropractors and physical therapists. And, this is where I really stumbled upon the active life training and those guys. And I got super involved with them and their processes and their education, which is where we met originally.
Yeah.
And I'm just, you see these big like signs that are like, I can fill the gap this way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the good people over there at Active Life, they're accomplishing some great things for people in the CrossFit gym space, and even outside of that too, just helping the day-to-day person that is enthusiastic about their fitness and how they can continue to do that in the long term, so that, like you mentioned, so that they can fulfill the more important roles that they have throughout their life. It's not just being that person at the gym, but rather, how do I become an overall more resilient, robust human being to handle the things that are important in my life?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, totally. So, can you explain to us what is Momentum Motives?
So Momentum Motives is a movement and lifestyle coaching platform, specific to certain types of people. So we spoke on this briefly also, but Momentum Motives was founded more so on relationships with the coach to client relationship. I think it's easy to say that it was founded on movement, on exercise, on healing and recovery, but to me, it's so much more than that. I was so lost at one point in my life with relationships. And as a coach, I found that the relationship side that I had with my clients far exceeded their need for movement breakdown. Like, yes, they needed those things, but they needed something bigger. They needed a direction, a big picture where all the pieces fit,
Hmm.
you know? So um, we focus on movement, but mindset, it starts with mindset and creating relationships.
Awesome. What are the steps for bringing on a new client? Do you start with exercise, or do you start with helping them develop a different kind of mindset?
So we definitely start with mindset. So my
Hmm.
process is I kind of have a three-stage process,
Hmm.
right? And the first process is it's called the mindset process.
Hmm.
Is because you have to flip a switch to transition to that sort of movement change that's going to
Yeah.
happen. Right. So if you've been in a space where people are competitive and there's a little bit more ego, and you've been blindsided by this inability to lift your arm up over your head, right? So no pull-ups, no going overhead, and you're still coming into a fitness space and you're seeing the person next to you do that,
Hmm.
you have to rewire your brain to know that those short-term sacrifices make long-term gains.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'd start by developing relationship, right? Because I'm really big on that. And then we retrain the mindset. And inside the mindset phase, we do some testing. So we use the active life movement screen.
Hmm.
We always start with that. And we use the active life strength balance because it's, there's not a, I've said this like 100 times recently, but there's not a corrective exercise in the world that means anything without a thorough assessment, right? So
Love that.
mindset, making sure we're completely thorough, and then
Yes.
set the process. Like, here is what the journey is likely to look like to get to here. We start with mindset, we generate momentum, and then we maintain movement, and that's the process.
I love that. It's very well thought out, that you're addressing kind of the bigger picture things first. How does this person think about and view their current situation, and how can you help them redirect some of that energy towards kind of a positive approach in the systems that you have laid out
Yeah.
for them? Very cool. And so currently, with your clients and the members that are part of Momentum Motives, what are the benefits that they're seeing? Can you talk on that a little bit, if you have some testimonials or
Sure.
experiences? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do. So the biggest benefit that most of my clients come to find is that they are pouring into themselves, right? They've taken these steps to better themselves, to make a change. And what they're realizing is that because they're pouring into themselves, they're more capable of pouring into the people around them with, right? So that's their motive, is the people around them. They need to care for their spouses and their children. They need to be there for the long run. They need to have the ability to move for their careers, right? So there's
Hmm.
their motive, right? But you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not pouring into yourself, it's a lot harder to pour into somebody else. And that's the
Hmm.
biggest, that's one of the biggest benefits they find, is that they do these things for themselves. They have more energy. They feel more fulfilled. They're putting themselves in a headspace that's productive, and
Hmm.
it outpours to the people around them.
I love that. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So really what your members are experiencing is that they're becoming more fulfilled
Mhm.
from kind of like this holistic approach of what is the condition of the space between the ears, so to speak, like how am I thinking about myself, and then now that they're doing an exercise fitness protocol that is specifically working on the things that's going to improve them in the long term, that they are really experiencing positivity on two different sides, and that really is creating them to become that better version of themselves that they need to be, so that they
Right.
can fulfill all those things that are important in their life.
And positivity builds, right? So if they're increasing their relationships, and they're better in with their exercise, and they're having more energy, like that,
Hmm.
that builds over into nutrition, and these, oh, I can sleep better, and this makes me better in the long run here. And it's just this ball, so to speak, of
Hmm.
momentum that doesn't stop. And that's typically the biggest gain, I believe, from them.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing some of that. That's
Yeah,
really neat that people are being able to experience that by working directly with you and your systems. Very
yeah.
cool. And so, this time is very interesting for us. It's been challenging the last 2 months. What are some unique ways you've been able to continue to support your clients and members through um, these safe protocols of working with people virtually or through online services? What are some ways you've addressed some of those challenges?
I think the biggest challenge, the biggest struggle, was helping them continue to find that motivation to stay
Hmm.
on that path of movement forward. And it looks different for every person. Every person needed something a little bit different, and it was just the communication, just breaking down those barriers of communication. And like, here's the relationship part just coming back up. If
Hmm.
the stronger the relationship, the better the communication, and the
Sure.
more willing that they're going to be to say, I need help with this, or this isn't working for me right now. So
Hmm.
as the coach, leaning in a little bit farther and saying, okay, well, let's find something that will work for you in this current time, right?
Hmm.
And knowing that these times will come to an end, right? Because
Hmm.
there's always going to be an end to this time. But
Sure.
we want to keep you moving. Like, we need to generate momentum now and
Totally.
continue it. And it was just it was a communication thing. So making sure that everyone knew that, I was available for them. They didn't need to be one-sided, me reaching out to them, like giving them that autonomy to say, I need help.
Hmm. Very cool. And you mentioned earlier too that you actually specifically dedicated a day in the week where you would reach out personally, either through text, email, phone call, handwritten note. Can you tell us a little bit what motivated you to do that?
Yeah. I just thought that because each person was so different, and it was different not being in the space with them, that I needed to find a way to stay connected,
Hmm.
and to just show them that regardless, there was still someone on their side.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, every Monday I would just block a lot of time out in my day. I was still
Mhm.
coaching and taking
Right.
clients and stuff, but I had it in my planner because I'm a paper planner person, like super old
Hmm.
school. This time to this time,
Yeah.
it's client communication, and it was phone calls, text messages, personal letters. And some of those personal letters, like, they were a light in a dark spot for people that were used to
Mm.
seeing people, and maybe that lived alone, or just needed a reminder that they were doing the right thing. They were continuing to do something for themselves, regardless of what this time looked like.
Hmm.
And it was just as moving for me, or even more so, to be able to dig deeper with them.
I love that. That's very cool. And You bring up a good point. Like, we're all busy. Nobody lives in a vacuum. So there are so many other things that are going to demand of our time and energy throughout the day. But you took it a step above and you really carved out some time so that you can personally reach out to your clients. And I'm sure that they benefited from that and they're super appreciative and grateful that you're able to spend your energy that way. It's very cool.
I'm just grateful
Awesome.
for their trust. So
Yeah. And that you bring up a good point. That is that doesn't come for free. Like, building trust is a long process. It's not guaranteed. It's not necessarily even expected, but you have to pour into that relationship so that you can get earn their trust.
absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So, for anybody that's watching this, Tana, um, what kind of message would you like to get out to the people that could potentially reach out to working with you?
I would just tell them that if they need something bigger than
Hmm.
exercise, that
Yeah.
they need someone that will listen when the
Hmm.
day is long, and
Yeah.
that it's okay to need that.
Hmm.
It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to give to yourself, and that's what we're here for.
That's awesome. And you're helping them to kind of pan out and see the whole picture, the big
Yeah,
picture, and let them know, like, we're going to address the better version of you so you can go out there and fulfill the things that you need to and play
absolutely.
that important role.
Yeah, because if we can, if you want a better squat, sure, we can make that happen. But
Hmm.
I think it's more important to learn why that's important to you and the reasons behind it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's such a, like, mind-blowing thing to think about, right? It's like, wait, why is that important to me?
Yeah.
Why am I doing all these things? Like, what is it that I'm really searching for?
Hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, Tana, thanks so much for sharing your personal experiences, your background, process behind Momentum Motives, and currently all the awesome things that you're accomplishing as being a trainer, a coach, really a guide for the people that trust you in helping them stay injury pain free so that they can continue to be the best version of themselves outside of that time that we spend in the gym. So thank you so much. I hope we can have more conversations like this in the near future. Thanks.
Absolutely, for sure.